In a year that generated Canadian headlines from Justin Trudeau's resignation to the Toronto Blue Jays' heartbreaking Game 7 loss, a man who few Canadians knew but a year ago has been named the Canadian Press's 2025 Top Newsmaker of the Year. I'm talking about Prime Minister Mark Carney, a former Bank of Canada governor who met a supremely patriotic moment during his meteoric rise through the political ranks to take Canada's highest seat of power. Joining me now to share more about this pick is Catherine Morrison, a reporter with the Canadian Press's Ottawa Bureau. Catherine, hello, good to speak to you.
Hi, thank you for having me.
So this is an annual tradition for the Canadian Press. Tell us how you go about picking the Newsmaker of the Year.
Yeah, so essentially the Newsmaker of the Year is picked in an annual survey of newsroom editors and leaders from across the country. This includes, local papers and national outlets. And so this year, the Prime Minister won by an overwhelming majority and was picked by 72 of 95 respondents.
Wow. So quite a comfortable lead there. And as mentioned, he's been in office less than a year, but it's been a very busy one. You're in Ottawa, you're in the hub of it all. What would you say are some of those watershed moments that really earned him this title?
Honestly, it's hard to pick out a major Canadian news story since his victory in the Liberal leadership race that hasn't involved him in some way. But many of the respondents who chose the Prime Minister as newsmaker this year highlighted both his election victory, which was, surprising after a year of the Conservatives being in the lead. And they also mentioned his response in the trade war with the United States.
Elbows up was really on everyone's lips last year. And it's perhaps notable, you mentioned this, that Carney's political rival was your Newsmaker of the Year for the last 2 years. Is this perhaps symbolic of a switch of power here?
Yeah, honestly, as a lot of survey respondents pointed out, the Prime Minister was able to achieve what was pretty much considered the unthinkable, and he led the Liberals into overcoming a 20-point polling deficit against the Conservatives and secure a minority government in the federal election. So this was honestly very surprising for a lot of people. And when you think about it, last year when Poilievre was named the Newsmaker, he was ironically described as Canada's Prime Minister in waiting. But at the time, he was also seriously focused on, inflation and the cost of living. But then with the Trump's trade war, when that, really became a focal point, those issues weren't really as important to Canadians for the first half of the year. And so I think that's where things kind of took a turn.
Now, I understand, as you mentioned, Carney was the overwhelming choice in the survey, but who else made the list?
Yeah, so he was up against a few other people this year. So a baseball player, 2 premiers, and striking workers across Canada. So while the Prime Minister got 72 votes, Toronto Blue Jays player Vladimir Guerrero Jr. got 8 votes. Striking workers across Canada, and that's, Alberta teachers, staff at Air Canada and Canada Post, they got 7 votes. And then Ontario Premier Doug Ford got 5 votes, while Alberta Premier Danielle Smith got 3.
All right. Well, we will leave it there. Catherine, thanks so much for being with us.
Thank you so much for your time.